time for our English morning show, and here with us our special journalist, Miriam Ziyan. Miriam, hi. It's been such an interesting week all over the world.
Good morning, Melissa. Yes, exactly. It has been a very interesting week. A lot has been happening this week. We will dedicate this segment to news and stories worldwide, from politics to climate to sports to many other stories. We'll also have a little debate with a special guest to talk about climate change and climate activists.
And we're going to start with Australia, that has reversed a previous controversial decision to recognize the western part of the occupied city of Al-Quds as the Zionist regime so-called capital.
Yeah, this is a very positive move and a very positive news for the Palestinian question. Australia has reversed, as you said, a previous controversial decision to recognize the western part of the occupied Quds, the occupied city of Al-Quds, as the Zionist regime's so-called capital. The foreign minister, Penny Wong, said the government regrets the previous decision of Scott Morrison's government by previous administration, and she reiterated the commitment to the two-state solution. The Palestinian Authority hailed the move and said that it will bring the Zionist and Palestinian issue into spotlight. Similarly, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Qatar have also hailed the move. They have welcomed Australia's announcement to support international efforts aimed at achieving a just and comprehensive and sustainable peace. This move will revive the international consensus on the status of the western part of the occupied city of Al-Quds.
And as you said, it is a very positive move for the Palestinian cause. We move to the founder of SpaceX, who says that although Starlink is losing money, he will just keep the Ukraine government for free. He will keep funding them, I say, and that is a day after suggesting that he cannot fund them anymore.
Well, he says things, then he gets back on what he says. So Elon Musk said on Friday, as you said, that he cannot indefinitely fund Starlink in Ukraine. He explained that the company was the funding costed SpaceX up to $20 million a month to run the devices, but backtracked to assert the company will continue to fund the service. Well, Melissa, after his announcement and after his proposal, Europeans were scared. They were concerned about the fact that he will no longer fund the telecommunication services. So they discussed whether they could contribute funding to fund the internet for Ukrainians to keep access to vital Starlink internet services. Some member states of the European Union used a meeting of EU foreign ministers in Luxembourg on Monday to pledge cash to fund the service.
You know, Miriam, I know it's a very scary move for the Ukrainians who have been fighting since last February. What triggers me the most is that Elon Musk is not even a political man, and yet he manages to have such an influence and such a huge impact on the world. I mean, he got into the EU meeting, the discussion about what he does. His actions are becoming very important.
Exactly. Well, he's an entrepreneur, and yet he has his say in politics. We have seen him in the Ukrainian conflict, talking about it. We've seen him comment on the China-Taiwan conflict. We are quite seeing him very often in politics, whereas he's just an entrepreneur, but he has his say in this modern world.
All right, so moving on from the man of the technology, we go to the experts who expect that roughly 5.3 billion mobiles or smartphones will drop out of use this year.
Yes, a huge number of mobile phones, smartphones will be thrown away, according to the International Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment. The organization highlights that there is a growing environmental problem of e-waste. It says that many people keep old phones in their homes rather than recycling them. Well, despite containing valuable gold, copper, silver, and other recyclable components, almost all of these unwanted devices will be stockpiled or dumped, causing significant health and environmental harm. Well, recently...
Before moving on to another topic, what can we tell the viewers about e-waste?
Well, e-waste is not something we tend to hear much about. We have seen lately that the EU Parliament has talked about keeping one type of charger, the USB-C type charger, so that we waste less, and that it it will be better for our environment. So as I said, it's not something we hear a lot about. It's not something very common to hear about e-waste. So if someone has a phone or an electronic device in his closet or garage, whatever is stocked anywhere, please make sure to recycle it.
Great.
It does count.
Talking about environment, confiscated ivory from elephants killed more than 30 years ago has turned up in recent raids.
Yeah, indeed, Melissa. The tusks were once a part of a stockpile seized from poachers and held in sealed containers by the government of Burundi. Now, in the study, researchers used DNA and carbon dating techniques to show that some of that stored material is now in the hands of smugglers. Well, governments keep ivory stockpiles for multiple reasons. For sure, they hope they sell the ivory for revenue, sometimes to support conservation efforts. However, they can sell only ivory from elephants that died of natural causes or that from animals that cause problems. But the issue is that they always end up in the hands of illegal traders and smugglers.
Unfortunately. And as a last topic, we end with TikTok. The app is raising the age requirement for TikTok lives and live streaming, adding adult-only live streams.
Exactly. Well, TikTok is raising its minimum age, as you said, for live streaming from 16 years old to 18 from next month. Now, TikTok is also giving creators more options on who can see their content with the introduction of an adults-only feature for live streaming. It announced that the adults-only option is primarily a safety feature to protect children from content that may be inappropriate. But Melissa, a BBC News investigation found hundreds of accounts going live from Syrian refugee camps with children begging for donations. Now, can you guess? Some were receiving up to $1,000 an hour. But 70% of those revenues were taken by TikTok, and they couldn't reach the people that were calling for those donations, according to BBC. Now, we do not yet have a comment from the company, but serious issues can happen while using these social media
TikTok
platforms.
is one of the largest growing apps. People are becoming addicted to it, and maybe parents who are watching us right now, it might seem very hard, probably impossible for them to focus or to have an eye on the content that their children are receiving, especially on these apps.
Yeah, it is actually a social media that has the world's fastest growing social media. TikTok has been downloaded more than 3.9 billion times. So its impact can be very huge, whether it be on children, on teenagers, or even young adults. So I think that parents should be careful with their children, and that TikTok must boost its policies.
And luckily, these kind of policies will keep the children safe from the unsavory or non-appropriate content.
That's what we hope. That's what we hope, Melissa.
Thank you, Miriam, for all this information. And now I think it's time for the debate of the day.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Whatever way you're going to get.
Security.
What is worth more, art or life? Is it worth more than food? Worth more than justice? Are you more concerned about the protection of a painting?
again, dear viewers, it is now time for our little debate with a special guest. Now, our topic is about climate change, which refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in the solar cycle, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generate greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the Earth, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures. Examples of greenhouse gas emissions that are causing climate change include carbon dioxide and methane. These come from using gasoline for driving a car or coal for heating a building. Now, emissions are expected to rise. And as a result, the Earth is now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than what it was in the late 1800s. Not much time that the Earth has actually warmed very much. The last decade was the warmest on record. The consequences of climate change now include intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. In this context and global concern over our planet, we're seeing activists staging up tactics to bring attention to their causes. Climate activists are dousing grocery store floors with milk. Coordinated protests from animal rebellion activists were staged across the UK, pouring milk down aisles in what they dubbed milk pours. Throwing soup at precious artwork. In the UK, environmental activists have thrown tomato soup over a precious artwork, Vincent van Gogh's famous painting Sunflowers at London's National Gallery, however, causing only minor harm to the frame. The Just Stop Oil campaign group said they threw 2 tins of soup over the painting to demand the UK government to stop or to halt all new oil and gas projects. In a different move with the same objective, in Italy, demonstrations against the new gas drilling projects were staged by members of climate movement Ultima Generazione, who halted traffic on a busy motorway in rush hour traffic. Well, you have guessed they caused considerable disruption for commuters trying to get to work, and prompting angry reactions from motorists. We've contacted Thomas Dowling, a researcher in environmental security, to talk about the matter. Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Do you think this is the right way of defending our planet? And does it help remember the urgent matter of climate change?
Well, I think there are a few issues here. I think the practical point is that they don't change anything, right? When you are dismantling or defacing a building, when you are demonstrating with milk on the floor, or you are attacking a piece of art, you're not doing anything to actually arrest deforestation. You're not doing anything to stop the ice caps melting. You're not preventing the coral reefs being destroyed. So there's no practical element there. That's not the reason that these activities are happening. The reason is to promote the issues themselves. And in that sense, they are more effective. Having people and the media focused on these issues is obviously the ambition of these activities. Now, the problem associated with that is, are they effective? Are they having a positive impact or a negative impact on people's opinions? And I think in the examples that you've shown in your program, I'm not entirely sure that these particular activities are having a positive impact on the climate movement.
Yeah, exactly. Throwing milk that many cannot even afford to buy cannot be a solution, especially in times where inflation is not sparing any country. It's obviously not going to change much. Many critics are questioning the effectiveness of an escalation strategy, saying destroying property undermines the climate movement's credibility and alienates supporters. I suppose that if those activists won't be stopped, they will definitely act more violently, and the situation will become more and more chaotic.
Well, I'm not sure that's a fair assessment to say that they will become more violent, but I think we have to question the targets that they're targeting, right? When you have something like pouring milk into Harrods or into a supermarket, that's a very low-key problem, right? That's not going to take a lot of money to put right, but it does promote the issue, which is the whole point of what they're trying to do. However, when you are attacking cultural symbols of our countries of identity, things like Van Gogh's sunflowers, things like the Mona Lisa, I think that's a bigger problem. When you would start to attack culture, people have problems with that. When you start to blockade roads, when you start to blockade ports, put people's jobs at risk, when you start to, like in London, to stop the underground train working, that's when the poor people and the working class people are affected. And it's these people, the core people, that you need for these movements. You need support with any movement, right? Exactly. And turning people away from the cause by directly affecting them isn't helping the situation, isn't helping the cause, in my view.
Yeah, exactly. This is not how we should behave. Freedom of speech and expression is important, but I think this is the wrong behavior to protect our environment. Now, in an already changed world, how can we stop further warming, Mr. Thomas? What is the solution?
Well, I think the activists are doing a good job in promoting the issues, but I think they're doing it in the wrong way, personally. But what we need to be doing is to pressure at the governments to continue to fulfill the pledges that they've agreed to. And that's what we're not seeing. The reason these movements have arose, Extinction Rebellion, Fridays for Future, people are angry, people are desperate, people are fearful for the future. They want the governments to act and to do something to arrest this position, to arrest these emergencies, these climate emergencies. And that's what's not being done. So we need to continue to raise these issues, not necessarily in the way that some of the more extreme elements of these groups are doing, as you already showcased in your program. But they need to be continuing to raise the issues. We need to be holding the governments to account to address these problems and to act on them accordingly. And that's what we need to be doing.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Thomas, for joining us. Thank you. Well, while we have no chance but to accept that we have already changed our world irreversibly to some extent, we cannot afford to let this trend continue, not just for ourselves, but for the generations to come. Not stopping emissions and allowing global temperatures to rise means that our children and grandchildren will have to bear the brunt of our inaction and deal with unimaginably devastating events.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our morning show, and back to you, Miriam. The draw for the 2023 Women's World Cup takes place on Saturday in Auckland.
Tomorrow, exactly. The tournament will run for July 20th to August 20th and will feature 32 teams in 8 groups. The last edition had 24 teams. Defending champions USA, who beat Netherlands 20-0 in the last final, will be looking to win the tournament for the 3rd time in a row. Apart from the US teams expected to be in contention are European champions England, Women's Africa Cup of Nations winners South Africa, and Women's Copa America champions Brazil. While 3 places remain to be filled, with 10 teams competing for them at a playoff tournament in February in New Zealand.
Miriam, no one denies that women's football has come a long way since it started in the late 80s. I mean, there is a lot to shoulder. Faith leadership, the persistent fight for equal opportunities, and the persistent fight for equal payment
and rights. Well, luckily, women will be heard. Women will have a louder voice in the future, and they're here in the battle, in the ground.
From football, we'll go to cinema, Miriam, and we talk about James Bond. The actor Daniel Craig received the same honor as 007.
Exactly. Hollywood actor Daniel Craig has made a Companion of Order of St. Michael and St. George the same and rare honor as held by Ian Fleming's famous fictional secret agent James Bond. Well, the honor was best owed by the Princess Royal at Windsor Castle during an investiture ceremony, celebrating Craig's outstanding contribution to film and theater.
I mean, the James Bond character has to be intimidating, yet charming, strong, but sometimes smooth. He has to be professional, but sometimes he has to tell a joke at the right moment. And I think Daniel Craig has always seemed perfect. I mean, for the role, he brought charisma and such an such a charisma for the role. And this honor he had received will definitely add a character to his personality.
To him, exactly. I mean, he does deserve his winning
the royal honor.
His honor, excuse me. He does deserve the honor, and he did contribute to cinema and to theater, so that was well deserved.
Well, thank you very much, Mariam, for your segment today.
Thank you, Melissa.
It's a wrap for the English morning show. Of course, Sabah News is still there, and we'll get back to you in a few.